All right. What's up, Chris? And do a quick sound check. If you guys can give me some bubbles. Dennis, what's up, man? Sound check real quick. Yeah, all right. Sounding good. Awesome. There we go. We'll give it a couple seconds to get some people to join here. And then we're going to start building a cocktail. I'm excited. Tyler, Tim Thursdays. Yeah, this week was a little bit crazy for me. So, hey, Cass. Busy week for me. So, Monday I was slammed. Tuesday was Valentine's Day, and I have a family and a wife, so I'm spending that time with them. And then yesterday I had to do a quick business trip, and so I literally just got back at 6 o'clock, actually. So, what's up, Fletcher Whiskey Dog? What's up, man? Tim Dunk 25. Eagle Rare was really good. You're welcome, man. I'm glad you like it. That Eagle Rare is a good pick. So Tim Dunk I met in Bevmo. He was looking for a bourbon pick, and we got to talking. And that was a recommendation. One of the 3 recommendations. So glad you liked it. Looks like we have some new people in here too. So welcome. We're going to be doing a cocktail here in just a minute. Tonight I got I don't know if it's a treat, but we're going to be doing a cocktail out of my actual book. So this is, my book that I used when I journaled and went around to all the different bars. And it's a cocktail that has no name. There it is. It's a cocktail that has no name. It's sort of a riff on a whiskey sour. So I'm actually going to be using rye tonight. So I know a lot of you guys are big bourbon enthusiasts out there, and so I figured I'd do a rye cocktail. So, all right, without further ado, I'm going to stop rambling on. I'm going to mount you guys up, and then let's do a cocktail. So as always, I'm going to have the screen is not facing me, so I'm not going to be able to see any of the comments and stuff while I'm talking now, but I will scroll back through at the end, answer any questions that you might have, and see what you guys had to say. And I'm recording this, so should be able to have this up tonight or tomorrow on the YouTube channel, and I'll post a link in my profile. All right. So, with that being said, what does my book look like? So this is my book. This is my kind of journal that I would use to write down on my recipes, but I'd also kind of journal about my adventures at the bars, who I talked to, what bartenders I talked to, and some of the things that I talked about. So one particular bar that I would go to is in St. Louis, and it's called Planter's House. And Planter's House, just a great little bar. It's kind of off the beaten path. It's just outside the city, like downtown area. So it's pretty quiet. It gets busy though. And I would go there, and I got to know someone by the name of Travis Garner. So Travis Garner is just a phenomenal bartender at Planter's House. And I got to know him so well that when I would come in and sit at the bar, he'd start pulling out his journals and all his books that he had, all his notes and things that he had worked on and been experimenting with, and he'd let me read through them. And one thing I can say is the more that you build cocktails and the more that you familiarize yourself with different cocktails, then you're going to be able to actually look at recipes in cocktail books, and you'll be able to get a good idea of what it tastes like just by reading it. Just like if you're a chef or a baker, when you look at recipes, by reading the recipe, you can get a good idea for what that is going to taste like and what the outcome is going to be. So the drink that I'm making tonight, it really does have no name. It's in my book as no name. And it's a recipe that I copied out of one of his journals that looked interesting to me. The reason that it looked interesting to me is because, one, it was a bourbon drink, but also it had St. Elizabeth Dram in it, and it also had Cointreau. So for those of you that are wondering how to pronounce this, you pronounce it Kwan-Troh. Think of like Kwantrh, T-R-O-H, Cointreau. And to me, it just, I got it. The spiciness from the allspice berry and this one, like the nutmeg, the cinnamon that you get from it, and then sort of that orange liqueur, like that kind of orange peel bitterness that you get out of the Cointreau. You know, I thought that would go really well together. And then I could see how the bourbon would continue to balance that out. And then from a sweetener, they use a cinnamon syrup. And so I just really liked how all of those flavor profiles tended to sort of share, they kind of shared certain, characteristics and complemented each other. And so I really wanted to see how it blended together. Not only that, but this particular cocktail that we're making tonight actually calls for egg white. And a lot of people out there, when they see egg white or hear of egg white in their cocktail, they tend to get a little bit nervous. And with good cause. It's not often that we consume raw egg, but egg white adds a texture to a cocktail that makes it just absolutely silky smooth. And in addition to that, it gives it an amazing foam layer on top. So without further ado, I'm going to start building the no-name cocktail, which is sort of, I guess if you think about it, kind of a riff on a whiskey sour. So I'm going to start with adding my citrus first. So this calls for a ½ ounce of lemon. And so get my lemon juice in there. Next, it calls for a full ounce of cinnamon syrup. And I have BJ Reynolds cinnamon syrup. It's something that you can buy online. They do a lot of tiki syrup. Cinnamon syrup just happens to be one of them. But if you wanted to make a cinnamon syrup at home, what you can do is just make your normal simple syrup that you would do with just equal parts sugar and water, and then just add a couple cinnamon sticks to it. And you can either cook it on the stove, so when you bring it to a simmer and just kind of mix it all until all the sugar dissolves, throw a cinnamon stick in there, give it an extra minute or two, and then dump it out, and then throw a cinnamon stick in there. Or you can be super lazy like I usually am when I make my cinnamon syrup. If I'm not buying it, that's the laziest. Then what I do is I make my simple syrup by just equal parts water and sugar, put it in a water bottle, shake it up till it all dissolves, and then I either just throw 2 cinnamon sticks in there and I leave it in the fridge for 2 or 3 days, and then it tends to take on a lot of that cinnamon characteristic there. So we have 1/2 ounce of lemon juice, 1 full ounce of cinnamon syrup, and now it's time to add the egg white. So this actually calls for 1 entire egg white, so all the egg white in 1 egg. And I'm going to dump that in there. I did not want to try to separate an egg white in front of you, so I pre-did that because I did not want to look like a fool if I wasn't able to successfully do that. But now that we have that and we have that ready to go, let's start adding our booze. So the first thing that we're going to go ahead and add is our bourbon, or in this case tonight, I'm using a rye. So I chose to use Willett Family Estate 3-year rye. This is just an excellent rye. Has a lot of spiciness to it. It also has a little bit of that tiny dill, pickle, kind of funky taste to it at the end. But it's also fairly sweet for a rye as well. And I thought, because it's not overly sweet like some bourbons tend to be, it should stand up pretty well to like the 1 ounce of cinnamon syrup that you're using as a pretty big sweetener in this cocktail. It's a little expensive. It's not too bad, but it's a little expensive for mixing. Some alternatives would be, of course, Elijah Craig. You don't have to have the age stated. I love doing Elijah Craig because that has some of that oaky spiciness to it, and it tends to hold up well in cocktails. Or you could use Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse would be another great mixing alcohol for you to use that's not very expensive. So this calls for 1/2 ounce of bourbon or rye, and we're using rye. Next, we're going to go ahead and add the St. Elizabeth Tram. So this is one that probably a lot of you are not very familiar with, but this is kind of like my second favorite to Velvet Falernum. So we talked about Velvet Falernum last week a little bit. This is just another one that just adds a lot of characteristic to a lot of cocktails that are out there. And this is an allspice dram, so it's made out of the allspice berry in Jamaica. So it's actually rum-based. And then they sort of infuse it with that allspice berry, and it gives it like cinnamon, nutmeg, a little bit of a peppery taste to it, some clove flavors to it. Just really, really good. I like to add this to some hot toddies once in a while. So this is going to call for a 1/4 ounce. This little bottle, so it's like a half bottle, 375 milliliter. This bottle will last you a long time. The reason being is that most cocktails that call for it, a little bit goes a long way. So some call for 1/8 of an ounce. I think the most I've ever seen is a 1/4 of an ounce. And then last, we need to add our Cointreau, and it's going to call for 1/2 an ounce. So we got 1/2 an ounce of rye, 1/2 ounce of Cointreau, and then we have 1/4 ounce of the St. Elizabeth Allspice Dram. We have a 1/2 ounce of lemon. We have 1 ounce of cinnamon syrup, and then we have a whole egg white in there. Now, when it comes to making cocktails that have egg white, the trick is to do something called either a dry shake or a reverse dry shake. Tonight, I am going to be doing the dry shake. It's just habit. It's what I usually do. And what it is before you add your ice to the cocktail, you're going to take all of your ingredients and you are going to go ahead and put them in your shaker, and then you're going to start shaking like crazy. I prefer the dry shake because I've done it so often that I can sort of tell when it's ready to go, because it gets a little bit lighter and airier as you're shaking it. And there's really no crazy technique to doing a dry shake. You just want to shake it like crazy to get it foaming up. And the reverse dry shake, what that is it's basically you add the ice, you do the same sort of shake like you're doing for your cocktail. So you do your count up to about 20, and then basically you take all your ice out, and then you continue to shake it, and then you strain it in your drink. So I can already tell that this is getting nice and frothy. I can feel it getting a little bit airier. It tends to slosh less as you shake it. I want to get you guys a really good foam, so you're going to have to bear with me as I shake this. All right, so now after we've given it a good dry shake, what we're going to then do is add our ice, and then after we add our ice, we'll give it another shake, and then we'll strain it out. As always with ice, be generous. This is something that you don't want to use too little ice, because you really want to get this thing cooled down. And the more ice you use, sort of the less dilution that happens, because you're breaking down less of the ice in the tin. All right. And after we give it a shake, one further thing that I'm going to do to kind of get that foam is I'm going to grab my coupe glass and my Hawthorne strainer, and then I'm going to use a fine mesh strainer just to catch any of those ice chips that are in there, and also to aerate it a little bit so I can get a nice layer of foam on top. All right, so I'll agitate it just a little bit, but you'll see a little bit of a separation, so you get a little bit of a foam layer that you get on top. And the more that you dry shake it, the more aggressive that you get with this, the thicker that foam's going to be. But you'll notice that, well, you can't really see too much, but there's quite a silky texture to it. Oh man, that's good. This is on the sweeter side of cocktails because of the 1 ounce of cinnamon syrup that's in there. Man, what you get is sort of, it's almost like an eggnog with a little bit of tartness to it and a spice in texture, from a texture standpoint. It just tastes like Christmas. Oh, it's so good. All right, there you have it. No name. Learned a little bit about shaking egg white tonight. And now I'll grab you and answer any questions. Man, I had to shake that so hard. All right, scroll back a little bit. Let's see. Silky smooth it is. Did I use cage-free eggs? So no, I used just regular old store-bought eggs, not organic. Yeah, that's the whiskey catfish trophy that's up there. Hopefully maybe I can earn another one. Shake face. Yeah, I was putting effort in that. I got a little bit out of breath. All right. Oh, my wife is correcting me. They are cage-free organic eggs. I apologize. My wife's fancy with eggs. Any questions out there on this cocktail? Have I ever used a whole egg in a cocktail? I have. When you use a whole egg, it tends to get, so the silkiness definitely comes from the texture in the egg white. When you use a whole egg, when you have that yolk, it tends to get a little bit more creamy. So you have that same silky texture to it, but then it also adds a creaminess to it, is what it does. Egg is pretty flavorless, so it tends to take on most of the flavor characteristics of what you're using it in. Just more from it more or less adds a texture to it. Sometimes I have trouble getting the foam versus some more of a penicillin kind of mess. So as always, when you're using egg white, you can't shake it enough. I can't stress that. I know that some people put agitators in there. So if you're not doing the reverse dry shake where you're shaking with the ice and then shaking it a lot after, sometimes when you do a dry shake, people tend to put agitators in there. So like the Hawthorne strainer, let me see if I find it. So the wire mesh that's around there, on some of the Hawthorne strainers, it comes off. And so you can drop that into your shaker, and then you can do a dry shake with that to continue to help agitate it. Do I find a big flavor difference in store-bought simple syrup rather than homemade? Yes. Store-bought simple syrup that you're buying at your average grocery store tends to be a little bit sweeter. Most grocery store simple syrup tends to be what's called a 2-to-1 ratio. So it's 2 parts sugar to 1 part water. So it's going to be significantly sweeter. I'm really picky about my simple syrups. If I'm not making them myself, then I pretty much only buy BJ Reynolds syrups that are out there. Mostly because most of their tiki drinks that they use all their own syrups, and these are their syrups that they bottle. Could I make that with Kentucky? I could. I could make it with Kentucky Owl. It would probably be really good. So, Bourbon Brother, Jerome. So basically what you do is you add the egg white, and then you give it a nice, good dry shake. And a dry shake is basically all of your ingredients in your shaker without the ice. And then you shake it like crazy. And then once you get that done, then you add your ice, continue to shake, and then you strain. Kentucky Owl is so delicious. Can you make your own allspice dram? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, probably. It's you'd have to go get the allspice berry from Jamaica, which I don't know anywhere that sells it, but I'm sure it can be found. I don't know if it's part of the distillation process or if they just add it to the rum after. I haven't looked into it that deeply. Tyler, we'll have to figure that out. Any other questions? So I will admit, tonight was between this no-name cocktail on my book and doing a Seelbach A seal bock is a classic cocktail that is bourbon and champagne. I had a question from someone last week about what's a good brunch cocktail. And that brunch cocktail, I couldn't think of it at the time, but then it came to me later, was a seal bock, because it's a champagne-based cocktail with bourbon. It's really good. It kind of grows on you. What's a classic cocktail that I hate? I don't necessarily, no, I know, a Bloody Mary. I'm not a big Bloody Mary fan. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for that, but I don't like tomato juice, so I can't hang with a Bloody Mary. A Bouvardier, yes, we could do that. We're due for doing something that's all liquor. A martini. Martinis, martini gets a bad rap. Tyler, I'm going to change your tone on that. You are going to learn to like a martini, because if you do a martini the proper way, it's so crisp and there is so much dimension to it from the gin that all the other things that you're adding to that martini is supposed to complement that gin. And there's a technique to it to make sure that you don't overstir a martini, so you can get that viscosity from the vermouth to stay intact. You want to see me stir a cocktail? Yeah, you got some skills, man. I'm practicing. Most martinis, people tend to add, they say, I want a martini, and they'll say dirty. And a martini, dirty, it tastes like the ocean. So if you do not like basically the briny taste, you're not going to like a dirty martini. And that's how people tend to make them. But I can make a vodka martini that just tastes like water. They're dangerous. All right, guys. As always, I appreciate you guys joining, watching this craziness. And hopefully tonight you learned how to do a new cool cocktail using some bourbon out there. As always, send me a private message with anything that you would like to see. Bouvardier, I got that. I wrote that down. I think we also have a Ramos Gin Fizz in the lineup as well, and a couple other. So I'll get to making those soon. See you guys.